Have you ever noticed that we usually end up talking like the people that we admire? Maybe you've adopted new words that you've learned from your friends, or maybe you know somebody who grew up in a place very different from where their parents grew up, and as a result, they've probably developed a new accent or a different way of speaking so that they sound more like their peers than like their parents. The fact that people emulate the language of others who they relate to or aspire to be like is pretty well accepted by linguists, but it's not something that we talk too much about when it comes to writing. That's probably because we like the idea of writers being solitary geniuses who have purely original thoughts. But when we think like that, writing can become a confusing and mysterious process. Imagine, for example, trying to learn a language that you've never heard or seen. It's impossible for somebody's way of speaking not to be influenced by the people they're spending time around, but at the same time, we sometimes put writing into its own separate category, and that creates an artificial pressure to be purely original, which can get us into a lot of trouble. But the reality is that writing can be pretty similar to speaking. That is, we tend to write like the writers we're spending time with or whose work we're reading. So if we're careful to spend our reading time with good writers, it's likely that the things that they do in their writing will probably rub off on ours, making us better writers in the process. Of course, if you're writing poetry or novels, it's pretty likely that you already have a few favorite writers picked out, but you can find a good hero or two no matter what you're writing. Maybe you're struggling to figure out how to write good emails at work. So is there someone who you think writes good work emails? If so, pay attention to the emails that they send and write yours to be more like theirs. Writing academic papers can be difficult, and good role models are in desperately short supply, but there are some out there. So find a writer or two who you admire and try to write more like them. The more time you spend with writing that you admire, the more you'll be able to recreate its best qualities in your own work. And don't worry about copying. There's a difference between copying someone's work to steal it and writing like someone else because you like their style. One is plagiarism and the other is learning from the greats. Not only that, but you will hopefully have more than one writer who you admire and emulate. Then your writing won't just be an uncreative imitation of a single famous person, but it will instead become a blend of your various heroes' influences plus your own unique flavor of writing. So keep an eye out for things that you genuinely enjoy as you're reading. Maybe you really admire a novelist's habit of using words in surprising ways and giving them new meaning in the process. Or maybe you get carried away by a poet's complex and sophisticated sentence structure, or perhaps you prefer a simpler syntax. The point is not that you need to go out and read the books that everybody else says are important. Just because a writer is somebody else's hero, that does not mean that they have to be your hero. So find the writers that you admire and then spend time with them, figuring out why you admire their writing and then practicing those same techniques in your own work. That is, don't just emulate writers because people say they're important. Emulate writers because you like their writing. Sometimes your hero will be a Nobel laureate. Other times, it will just be someone at work who ends their emails with something far more lively and friendly than the miserable best. As one of my writer friends has a habit of saying, follow your dreams. I'm looking forward to sharing some of my writing heroes with you, but I'm also excited to learn who your writing heroes are. Share them with us in the comments and tell us, why do you admire their writing so much? Good writing doesn't have to be mysterious, and it can't happen in a vacuum. By picking out good writing heroes, you give yourself a better sense of direction, which can go a long way towards helping you to feel more confident in your writing. And that's worth a lot, so go on out there and pick some stellar writing role models. And while you're doing that, I'll be getting ready to see you in the next video, which I'm sure is something you can hardly wait for. As one of my writer habits has a friend of saying,